Okay, good evening and welcome to week 8 of Equipping Minds to Reach Their Full Potential. One of the gals in the room just said, "This can't be the last class. I need about 10 more." And if you feel like you need some more, absolutely. As you heard me share, we're doing our annual conference April 15th through 17th for level 1 here in Frankfurt at Buck Run Baptist Church, and then level 2 the 17th through 19th. And so we have folks coming in from all over the United States and people internationally doing the live stream, some international speakers, just an amazing group. I actually posted the schedule with a lot of details on what we'll be covering for conference. So that's on your Equipping Minds website. So tonight, week 8, I'm Dr. Carol Brown, and we are going to be wrapping up on critical thinking tonight. We're also going to be answering some questions. And we also have a little bit of a surprise guest speaker. So I'm going to have him come on up right now. So for everybody, this is Clayton.
Hello.
And so you have heard his story and can go back and watch that. But he happened to be coming in town this evening. Just got here about 15 minutes ago, and I said, "Oh, come over to class so everybody can meet you." But one of the questions that came out this week was, what do you do when you have a student who's reluctant to do Equipping Minds, okay? And I will tell you, typically, if we're going to have reluctance initially, it can be with teenagers, to be perfectly honest. And they are either jumping right on board, or you do see that hesitancy, because at that point, they've had a lot of frustration, a lot of failure, a lot of, I can't get this. Why did God create me this way? Am I always going to have these challenges? And you will see a strong correlation between learning challenges and depression and bullying and poverty and incarceration. I mean, just so many correlations. When those are not addressed, when you do not have a supportive family, when you don't have that intervention and support from your school in so many different areas. So that is very crucial. But a lot of times when we have teenage boys, guess who gets to work with them? Clayton does. So Clayton, come a little closer, okay. And I've got my mic here. So hopefully it's going to pick up well.
Let me get on the other side of you.
Yeah. And so just share how you approach a student that is reluctant. Well, imagine it's a teenage boy.
So that's about 95% of the clients that I see on a regular basis. I've been doing this for several years. So really the first time I ever meet with a student, I just want to get to know them. I actually know what they like to do for fun. I actually take a very strong interest in what they enjoy doing. And so when I get done working with one of my students, I'll ask them, "Hey, did you go skiing on Sunday with your dad?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, we had a blast." So I actually get to know my students, and they know me, and they know I love fishing. I love hanging out with my dog. I love spending time with my wife, taking her on dates, things like that. And they'll ask me, "Hey, how is that?" So I first get to know them. That way they know I actually really care about them. I'm not just here simply doing the work. I care about who they are. I really do. And when they're reluctant and I'm working with them, which I got one right now, very, very hard to work with. However, when those days do come, and today was one of those days. It was very fresh, just several hours ago. And when that does happen, and I hear that I'm an idiot, I'm a failure, because I know exactly what that was like for over 18 years. I know that. And the first thing I tell them is that you are not an idiot, you are not slow, you are not broken. You are not. That's one of the worst things you can ever say to a student. And I'll look at them and I'll tell them that, number one, I am doing this with you every single step of the way. I let them know that I'm always there with them. They're not alone. And I'll show them all the time. Look at my screen. Look right here. There's nothing in front of me but the notes I'm taking. I don't have a cheat sheet. I'm there with them literally every single step of the way. And then I tell them that I am proud of you. Whether that is you are flying through the games or we are struggling together. Regardless, I am proud of you. As long as you give me your best work, we can get through this and things will get better, but hard is good. It shows that you can get better and that you need this and that I'm not wasting your time and you're not wasting mine. And just really being there and where they actually feel safe working with me. That is one of the biggest encouragements, and just letting them know, like, and I'll tell them, like, buddy, I love you, I care about you, I've been working with you since October. I know you. I know what your favorite food is. I know what you don't like. I know your favorite artists that you love to listen to. I know you. And just love on them. Just always be encouraging. Just being there for them, even when they are not lovable. Because there are plenty of times when they are not, and it's very hard to love them. But that's where the gospel comes in, and where, as God loves us unconditionally, despite that we continue to rebel and sin against Him, He still loves us. He is still faithful and just, which makes the gospel so beautiful. It's extending that love, that same grace to the students.
Okay, thank you, Clayton, for sharing that and coming over tonight.
Anything else?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, welcome. Well, thanks for having me. I'll see you all around. Come to conference.
Yeah, yes, he'll be speaking at conference. He does two sessions, one on understanding the mind of the struggling learner, and he totally takes you on his journey on that. And then he has a study skills session that is unlike any study skills session you have ever heard. And so it's something that he developed and used through college and was incredibly effective. So I hope that's an encouragement for you guys, because that is a big question. I also know that some of y'all have been doing this all along. From week 1, you've been implementing it. I also know that some of you are waiting till the end of tonight, okay? That there's a little bit of a fear factor on, what do I do? How do I do this? And we're going to do an overview of that. Go back over, hit some key points with you. And also tell you where a cheat sheet is, okay? That's not necessarily hidden on my website, but is there with the research. But just to recap, who is Equipping Minds for? And everyone who has a mind is what someone who's been here in class has learned. At first, you might have thought, I'm listening because I have a child with Down syndrome, with autism. Someone has dementia. They have post-concussion syndrome. They're nonverbal. They have dyslexia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia. So many different diagnoses. But as you've been doing the games, you've sat there and said, oh my goodness, I need this. Oh, that was challenging. And I hope that's where everybody is, that you've seen how universal it can be applied. This evening here in our class, we actually have a guest. And it was really exciting to see how she got here. And she is a human resource major, and so workforce and development. And part of her assignment is to go to a seminar. And she simply Googled seminars near Frankfort, Kentucky. And guess what came up tonight? We did. And so, one thing we have not really talked about was that about 5 years ago, we were working with a couple students. And as you know, we really love to include the parents. And so we were including the parents. And two of those parents happened to work for Toyota. And after their students had finished our program, I got a phone call. And she said, Carol, we'd like for you to come up and do PD for the managers at Toyota. And I said, I'm sorry, what? You want me to play the games, with grown men and women, in their 30s, 40s, 50s? And she was like, yes. And I'm like, well, why? Well, because you have performance reviews at work. They were having their performance review, and their manager said, wow, just seeing some really positive things with you. And she said, well, my son's been doing this program, and I've been playing these games with him all summer. So it actually made her more productive. And so I went up there, and y'all, I took my giant cards and my blink cards and the tic-tac-toe and the animals and all of that. And what was amazing was at the end, we did it for 45 minutes, and y'all, it was me on steroids because, not really, but I was really doing them quickly. And then they said at the very end, we're going to have Carol come back and do this again in February. And so at that point, they invited me up to Erlanger, and it was stadium seating, basically like movie theater, and it was packed. And then behind me were a bunch of other sites around the country, and they had what was at that point, we had an adult workbook that was just missing the student pages. And so they actually told me particular people to call up. You know how last week, I had someone in the room come up and play with us. Well, they would actually give me names and say, well, call up, Mike Smith or whatever. And they had no idea they were being called up to be kind of the guinea pig, so to speak. So we have seen this being used in the workplace. I've also had the honor to go to the National NAMI conference. NAMI is the National Alliance of Mental Illness, and did it on equipping minds with games. And it was one of the highest attended workshops because there is a real correlation between mental health and cognition. And one of the other presenters at the University of Pennsylvania talked about the importance of not just cognitive behavioral therapy, but relational cognitive behavioral therapy, and said that they had found that if you used music, and as you know, we use sound therapy, if you used games, which of course we use, right? If you used a human mediator, if you encouraged relationships, which we do, if you looked at nutrition, which we do, if you looked at even spirituality, because there's a lot about meditation and prayer and the brain, and we are very aware of that spiritual health of individuals. And it was just amazing listening that they said that kind of intervention And physical movement as well was another, which, we encourage, and even with the maintaining brains every day, movement exercises, and that was being more effective than just simple talk therapy, going in to have a session with a counselor. And so they were presenting this new research and the overlap between what we were seeing and they were seeing. As you know, we use this with a lot of children who have been adopted, whether it's through the foster care system, internationally, and students, whether you've been adopted or not, who've also been through trauma. And so that's something that you see can lead to a lot of times mental health issues as someone gets older, that there was trauma in their life. And we talked about the very first week, the book, The Connected Child by Dr. Karen Purvis, and Heather Forbes' book on Beyond Consequences and Help for Billy about trauma-informed schools. And all of those things talk about the importance, as you heard Clayton say, of feeling safe, of being encouraged. That when you feel that, then you can work on that neurocortex, that we can work on those pathways in the brain. And as you know, because Equipping Minds doesn't have anything academically, yes, we use numbers and letters and presidents and animals and colors and all of those fun things, but it doesn't feel like you're doing school. And because of that, you see the children really relax, or adults, and having fun. I mean, I'll never forget those professional developments at Toyota when you have a bunch of, mostly men in their, 30s, 40s, and 50s playing the games for an hour and a half. But to see almost really the same delight that I might see from a 6-year-old when they're doing it, because there's no judgment there. And because they are novel and everything, it makes it just a lot of fun. So you've got those different situations. At conference, we are really excited to have some college professors coming. And so getting this message, I'm part of the Society for Professors in Christian Education, and have had the opportunity 4 different times to speak to that group, and so getting this message of hope out there. And as you well know, we work with some orphanages, with missionaries all over the world, as well as our private schools, homeschoolers, lots of homeschoolers. And I have the privilege of being a special needs consultant for the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, but also our public schools here in Kentucky. And I hope everybody got to go watch the clip that was on Facebook today, if you hadn't seen that before, from the school down in eastern Kentucky that uses Equipping Minds. It is one of my all-time favorite. And you can use this one-on-one. You can do this in small groups. You can do this in a large classroom. So there's really no limits. You can do this in a church setting, in a home setting, in a clinic setting, in a school setting. Lexington Parks and Recreation uses the program in their summer camp, in their special needs camp. And I've had the privilege to speak at the national state conference here in Kentucky for Parks and Rec. And that's an exciting piece. So I hope that you're even sitting where you are, whether thinking I could take this to an adult living center, a nursing home, my workplace, my school, on this mission trip, that your mind is just thinking about all the different places, because as we talked about a few times, this workshop right now, for the 8 weeks and the handouts, those 32 pages, were all gifted to you. Because 1 out of 5 people have a neurodevelopmental disorder. Autism is on the rise. There is a crisis in special education. And then the students that don't fall in there, that are struggling and then can't complete, whether it's a trade school or university or whatever it is, or can't hold a job because they can't process what they're seeing and hearing. They can't hold on to multiple step directions, and they don't remember what they were just told. Maybe they played sports or they had a fall and they are really suffering the effects of post-concussion syndrome. And so those are all areas that Equipping Minds can bring help to. Like you heard me say at the beginning, it's not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about reaching that full potential that God has for you. You also heard Clayton say that he could tell his story for those first 18 years because it was a journey. And in your first handout you got, his story is there and his poem is there. And we're going to look at that in a little bit. But I want you to read over those. And for some of your students or adults, you might do this for 3, 4, 5 months, 30 minutes a day, 45 minutes a day. Those pathways are going to connect, and you might never play Equipping Minds again. I hope that's not the case. I hope you see the incredible benefit and how sharp it keeps your mind. But then others, you're going to see how this is just such a crucial piece into your day, just like anything else. As we said last week, with our now some man-made ADHD, because students can get on and just Google things, and so they're not having to they're just not spending as much time on content or seeing a need to do that. But the importance of still being able to read things and comprehend with critical thinking, that ability to pull things from your long-term memory and to make a good decision, to be able to reason, to be able to think about somebody else's point of view. I hope everybody got to look over the handout from last week and look at especially that second part that we can take a quick look at, because then we're going to look at some videos on it. But we really looked at the efficient cognitive functions. And I was sharing with our guests tonight how in the workplace they talk about hard skills and soft skills and essential skills, but really miss the cognitive skills. And I see that as our foundation. And here are those efficient cognitive functions that we looked at last week. But then in the elaboration, this is really where, after you have looked at everything, then you look at what's my problem? Because problem solving is a really big thing. Search for relevant cues. What's relevant to how I make decisions to solve this? That ability to compare spontaneously. And we talked about that when we looked at our stair card and looked at the little boys and how they're similar, how they're different, and following Aristotle's 10 categories. Recall several pieces of information. Once again, that long-term memory. Remember when I had you list all the animals you could in a minute? And so you can do other areas that you know that a student has or you have in their long-term memory. I love doing that with a little 6-year-old today. He's the first one ever who actually told me a special beetle that I had never heard of before and a sparrow. And when I've asked someone to say a list of animals, nobody had ever said sparrow before. So it was just super fun to hear him pull out that and even categorize. He was even chicken, rooster, chick, jaguar, cheetah, mountain lion, tiger, saber-toothed tiger. So I was like, oh my word. Okay, his long-term memory skills were amazing. He had 22 animals in a minute as a 6-year-old, and they were all categorized. So it was like, okay, that's a really strong area here in that elaboration. So he could recall several pieces. And then understanding reality, understanding cause and effect. And I'm going to just share this little thing with you. With some of my students who are nonverbal, even allowing them to take a dry erase marker and to mark on a board and to see, by doing that, I'm causing a design. And then, I can take the eraser and erase it. And seeing that is just such a basic level of cause and effect. And it has been amazing to see with some of our students who have more severe challenges that is kind of a foundational piece there. Then using logic, abstract thinking, moving away from concrete and visualizing. You've heard us talk about visualizing throughout this and the importance to visualize images for reading comprehension, the ability to visualize letters, to be able to spell and read, the ability to visualize numbers, to hold mental math in your mind. And then the hypothetical thinking, if then, and we did this, when they're saying 5, blue, red, and you'll say, oh, that is red, but if this is blue, whose turn is it? Lightning, okay? Using that if-then thinking, we put that in. We're not giving them the answer, but when we're doing that number, color, shape, and bringing that so that you have that self-correction there. And then those problem-solving skills, making a plan, and being able to think sequentially. So by playing these games, when we're doing, and we're going to look at it tonight, we're going to check everybody on our number page and our animals and see if you can tell me the number, the color, the animal, the president, and our vowel. Is everybody ready for that? And then forming categories, right? Understanding relationships, applying conceptual labels, red, blue, green, and our symbols and everything that we're doing. And then that big picture. And then finally in your output, seeing another person's point of view. We talked about that when you're playing tic-tac-toe on the 2 boards. Where do you think I'm going to go? Being able to look at that picture and saying, imagine you're the boy. What side is the dog on? How does it look like he's feeling? Seeing those relationships there. How are they related? And then, y'all, one of the most important things, we've got a couple right here on number 3. Stick to it, perseverance, grit, not giving up. Okay? You have heard so many things throughout life. Perseverance, continuous effort, not strength or intelligence, is the key to unlocking our potential. Winston Churchill. Aristotle said, you will never do anything in this world without courage. It is the greatest quality of the mind next to honor. Thomas Edison said, if we all did the things we were capable of doing, we would literally astound ourselves. And many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. And so when we are doing the games and they're doing that number page and they're Xing the 2 and circling the 1, and that's taking that focus and that concentration, and then they're saying the number and the color and the animal and the president and the vowel, and they're putting all those things together and they're not giving up. And as Clayton said, you've heard me say, we tell the students, we are in this together. I will help you. And how we talk about the importance of team building, right? And people being able to work together. And if you can't work together when you're playing games, how can you work together in real life? So seeing that. And then that number 4, just a moment, let me think. Being able to 5, give a thoughtful response. And when we're playing these games, we are actually teaching all of these skills. The ability to use precision and accuracy to do it right and take our time. Visual transporting, like we looked at with the tic-tac-toe boards, and showing self-control, being able to speak and act. And we would all say those are key components in life to be productive, to work well, to be successful. And that's where 100 times over I will say that playing the games will help you do that. Now, one of the games we did not get to look at that I wanted us to tonight is the game set. So we're going to look at set, and we had just looked at the cards, but I have actually pulled up the game. And with the game of set, we would tell the students first, and we looked at this in the first session, when they're just saying what they see. 1 purple squiggly. And what else do you see? 2 red squigglies. And then when we have a set, the rule with set is the numbers have to be all the same or all different. So if I have a 1 and a 2, what number is missing? 3. And then we have to ask what color is missing, because the colors have to be all the same or all different. And in set, if you've been using this the last few weeks for processing, you know that we have purple, red, and then green. So right now we need 3 green, and the shapes have to be all the same or all different. So if I have 1 squiggly and 2 squigglies, then I'm going to need 3 green squigglies to make a set. Okay? And so that's how I would teach it. And then I would come in with a student and say, if I have 1 purple squiggly and 2 purple ovals, if I have a 1 and a 2, what number is missing? 3. If I have purple and purple, what color do I need? Purple. And if I have a squiggly and an oval, what shape is missing? Diamonds. So I would need 3 purple diamonds. And I will tell you that a research study was done playing set, and it's on our website. And it showed that playing set increases inferential reasoning, which is part of critical thinking, but also phonemic awareness. Now, do you see any letters here? No. But what have we talked about is foundational to being able to read and spell? Is being able to hold pieces of information in your mind, to tell the order, the number, the sameness, the difference. And so by working that part of the brain with something that's not a letter, you then make using letters accessible, which is so amazing, isn't it? Because so many students will shut down. So I'm going to show you a little video, of us playing set. So this is one from the Roses program that we're going to look at.
Okay, we are now going to play set with the solid cards, and this that you're seeing now would work whether it was all solids, all stripes, or all open. And one of the key things is being able to express that thought process. I will tell you, we work with people that are engineers, and they do not like this. They can look at it, find a set immediately, and they don't want to talk about how they got there. But then in their world, they can frustrate a spouse, colleagues, who like to hear, "Hey, how'd you come up with that?" And it's like, "Well, just because I know that that's the right answer." Um, but they really struggle with being able to put language with that. So, this, I'm just going to tell you, even though someone could be great at finding sets, you may still be playing this for a long time, but always, have fun with it because it's a process that comes with it and being able to express that. Um, so you're going to get to watch us do this, so you can see. You've got to see some of our students playing and where they're at with it, but now you're going to get to hear us do it. Okay, so we have 9 solid cards on the board. So Ashley, tell me what your strategy is going to be.
First, I like to start by checking my colors, and usually I like to check what I have the most of. In this case, I see that there's 3 of each, so I'm just going to start with the red, and I see that my 3 reds cannot make a set because 2 of them are the same shape and 2 are the same number. And then I'm going to check my purples, and I see that I come across the same issue. 2 are the same number and 2 are the same shape. Now I'm going to check my greens, and I see that these do make a set because they're all the same color, they're all the same number, and they're all different shapes. Now I see that I have a lot of ones. So I'm going to start by checking my ones. And I notice that I only have 1 purple and 1 green. I'm going to see if I can use those together. And they're both squigglies, and then I see that I have 1 red squiggly. So this would be my set. I have the same number, they're all different colors, and they're all the same shape. Right now I notice that I only have red and I only have purple. So that means that my set, if I have one, will have to be all the same colors. I mostly have red, so I'm going to start by checking my red. In my red, I see that I have 2 1s and 2 2s and only 1 3. So that tells me I need to do all different numbers. So I'm going to start with my 3 red diamonds and pair it up with a 2 in my head and stop and think I need 1 red oval, and I have that. So this would be my set because they're all different numbers, they're all the same colors, and all different shapes.
Okay, and that's just an example with our Roses program, how we would teach parents how to use this. Now, some of you may say, well, that looked awfully easy. And that would be too easy for my child might get bored with that. But I hope you heard how Ashley was talking through that thought process and how important that is when we make so many decisions. But then one of my students had this brilliant idea. She decided that we should play set.
Okay, we are now going to demonstrate the most challenging way to play set. And I had debated whether or not we were going to show you this way. This is only for the most advanced of students. And the student who is demonstrating it is actually the one who thought we should play it this way. It was her idea. So we're going to model, and we may or may not be successful with this. Sometimes we can get in here and find lots of sets, and we're going to see how we do today. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
And when you turn it over, say the full thing that you're seeing.
All right. 3 green ovals. 3 red ovals. 1 purple squiggly.
Okay, and will that make a set?
No.
No, so go ahead and turn them back over. Okay, now show me the bottom center card. So I see 3 purple ovals. Go to the bottom right card. 3 red ovals, and then go to the
Red.
I'm 3 green ovals. I'm thinking about those red ones. And go ahead and turn over on the top. Yes. The 3 red ovals. Oh my goodness, we actually found one. Okay. And go ahead and put 3 more down. We'll see how we do. Okay, go ahead.
1 purple oval. 1 purple diamond.
So who do we need?
1 purple squiggly.
Oh my goodness. We're actually doing really well today. Okay. You would think we had set this up. We did not. That's crazy. Okay, let's try.
Okay, so I wanted to let you see a little clip there. She's 9, and came up with that way to play. And when we were first learning, that was a challenging game. And then one day she said, Miss Carol, can we just turn them upside down? And I was like, I'm sorry, what? But see, that's where she was crossing a line to say she understands that hard is good, that it's great to struggle well. And so being able to visualize those and hold those in place and think about that, I hope you saw that those are essential skills in our cognitive functions. Okay, so I want to show you guys another way to play tic-tac-toe. I love that, of course, the very last night of the workshop, that these are working fabulously. So here is another way to play tic-tac-toe.
Today we're going to play tic-tac-toe with the 1 through 9 board, but we're going to use 2 different boards. And so we're going to use our cubes today, and with the cubes we're going to actually cover up where we're going to go. We're going to cover up all the pieces on the board. So we're going to have 2 colors. I see some green and purple. So let's take the green cubes and cover up our top board, and the purple cubes and cover up the bottom board. So this is actually a lot like reverse tic-tac-toe is what it seems like. So this has been one of the more challenging ways for adults and children of all ages and abilities, quite honestly. in playing this one. Okay, so Ashley, where do you see yourself going?
I see myself on 7.
Okay, so she just went on 7. I see myself on 5. Where do you see yourself?
I see myself on 2.
Okay, I see myself on 4. So stop and think about where I am.
I see myself on 6.
Okay, good move. So Ashley was seeing me on 4 and 5, so she went on 6. Okay, I see myself on 9.
I see myself on 1.
Okay, she went on 1 to stop me. And I see myself on 8.
I see myself on 3.
3. And we have a tie game.
Not I won.
Oh,
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. There you go. Okay, nicely done.
So you see how that can be tricky?
See, I told you all this was a tricky one.
That's one of the trickiest ones to do, cover it up, because then you're visualizing
Okay.
those numbers. You can do that on the president board, the letter board, the animal board as well. So playing that. And yes, I was sitting there and that will happen. You'll be playing and that's what we also want to model for the students, that, oh my gosh, I got tricked with that, and that we're smiling, that we're not getting frustrated or saying, oh, I'm a failure or I'm stupid or something like that. That we're like, yeah, that was tricky. Oh my gosh, that got me. So having that positive response, oh, let's play again, which is a great one. Okay, let's see how everybody does remembering and with our number hunt. Here we go, and it's already set up. What I see us doing, we're going to read these back just a minute. So just start at the top and let's say number, color, animal for me. We'll just do a few rows. You ready? Begin.
3, no. 2 green turtles. 4 green snakes.
Good.
3 yellow snakes.
Jack, what symbol do you see?
Oh, bear.
Good.
2 black elephants.
Nice.
1 yellow snake.
Mm-hmm.
5 blue turtles.
Nice. One more row.
3 green turtle.
Yes.
4 red.
Mm-hmm.
4 red. 2.
It is a 2, but if that was 4,
Fish.
fish. There you go. Good thinking. Okay, nicely done.
So you saw how I stopped. I paused. I let her think. I didn't rush in to rescue her. And so you may remember that we circle the ones and X the twos and box the threes and put a line under the 4 and put a line above the 5. You also may remember that the green goes on 1, blue on 2, red on 3, yellow on 4, black on 5. Okay? And then to make sure as we're going back over this, you could see that I just want to hit on, here we go, and Ashley's going to show you a
Hi,
student.
today we're going to look at our arrows and we're going to alternate between number, color, and president. However, this time we're going to do our presidents in sequential order. Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison, and so on. So I'm going to let the student demonstrate the first 2 rows doing number, color, sequential president. You may begin.
4, blue, George Washington. 3, green, John Adams. 4, yellow, Thomas Jefferson. 1, green, James Madison. 4, red.
Nicely done. And then you'd have your student continue this at home, doing the whole page.
Okay, so you guys are still getting to see little clips from our Roses program. And then I want to pull up and go over this with you guys. And I'm going to see if it's going to let me pull it up here. When I meet with someone, I meet with them on Zoom meeting when we do the online therapy or when we're training parents. And I'm going to see if this is going to, it may not come up. I may need to just pull up my other. Here we go. It is. Okay. So I'm seeing myself double time, basically. And I want to share my screen with myself. And I want to go back over the animals with you. We've talked about this, but this is a great way to show you right here. And okay, so you remember on the animals that we come up and I see us. What do you see yourself doing to the bear? I see myself drawing a circle around the bear. Then I see myself drawing a box around the snake. Then I see myself drawing an X on the fish. Then I see myself drawing a triangle around the cat. Then I see myself drawing a line under the elephant. And then I see myself drawing a line above the turtle. Now, our animals are also going to have smiley faces on penguins' bellies, and nest under the bird, and a unicorn on the horse. And it's just going to keep going to 20 different directions. And when we were doing this, and we'll have a spider web around our spider, and we'll have a hump on the camel, and bacon on the pig. And when we were doing this, I noticed after we had actually been doing the animals that when you took off the page protector, that there were our overlapping numbers. And so it doesn't matter the order that we do the animals. What gives meaning to the animal is the symbol that we use for it. Okay, so anytime if a student looks here and they see the circle, well, what number goes with the circle? 1. They see a box. What number did we box? We boxed the 3. Okay? What number did we put a line above? We put a line above the 5. So that's also the turtle. We box the 3 and we box the snake. We circle the 1 and we circle the bear. We X the 2 and we X the fish. We put a line under the 4 and a line under the elephant. And eventually you'll see that we put a left parenthesis on the 7. Well, that's also our extra hump on the camel. And then we put a slash on the 6. Well, guess what? That's our unicorn on our horse. We're going to put a line through the middle of the 9. Well, that's our piece of bacon on our pig. And we're going to put double parentheses around our spider, and our spider has 8 legs. And so you're going to keep seeing those overlaps, but just want you to know that letters do go sequentially, numbers go sequentially. With the animals, they're not in an order. I could decide, I would tell a student, oh, today I see you doing the cat, the bear, the penguin, the horse, and it would be all about the symbol. So kind of keep that in mind. That's a question that we get asked, but it is 20 different animals, and as you kind of look at those. And the last thing I want to show you this evening as we're winding down is where the cheat sheet is. Does everybody want to know the cheat sheet? It's actually in the back of the Equipping Minds workbook. I will tell you, in the Equipping Minds workbook, I'm just going to give you a little peek here. Okay? We actually have your daily routine, how you use your language, and then sample sessions. What you do session 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then we also give an overview of how we say 4 blue turtles, the letter I, George Washington, left, how we put that together for the brown 6 and back. And here's your cheat sheet. It's in the teacher workbook. Here's an overview of all the exercises and all the steps laid out. But the part that's also you can just access online, I put in the very last part, and in here you have all kinds of games. You also, in the teacher workbook, it's going to bridge over as well to grammar and writing and spelling and study skills, handwriting, copy work, memorization, how to teach math, classification for science, auditory processing. This workbook is just packed. Okay, writing, how to do writing, grammar, how to build a history timeline, classification through science, Venn diagrams, hierarchical diagrams, and that all supports, and then the 7 laws of teaching are in here with Clayton's study skills. And the very back, you will also see, and this is the last pages of my dissertation, there's actually an article on what is IQ that you can read, a summary of the research study, but then it gives you the daily training we did for 30 hours. So in the research study, and this is just what I want to reiterate one more time, Equipping Minds is research-based. We are very blessed to have 6 peer-reviewed journal articles. And when we did the research study, there was an active control group. So the other kids got a comparative intervention. They got more academic tutoring. So 16 students got more academic tutoring and 16 students did Equipping Minds. An hour a day of more academics, an hour a day of Equipping Minds. We also looked at verbal, nonverbal, IQ composite. We saw those go up 14 points. We looked at academics at 9 areas and saw the students go up higher on 7 out of the 9 areas and make statistically significant gains in reading and spelling and in science in just 30 hours. But it was an hour a day. They did their maintaining brains. They listened to their sound therapy while they played the games. They did it with a human mediator. And so most studies do not look at working memory, verbal, nonverbal, IQ, and all those academics and have a full-blown active control group that's having a comparable intervention. And it was a randomized allocation. And so we were able to do that. So you can just kind of hold on to that. But this is what we did. And here are the 30 hours of the research study. Those are on my website. Those are on the internet. If you put in Carol Brown, Equipping Minds, applying a biblically based curriculum for increasing working memory, that was my doctorate of education at the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary. So that is on. Hopefully everybody has had plenty of time to go all over your Equipping Minds website and to look at this, to go to the research, because to me that was something very important when we were seeing this. Here's your Journal of Alternative Medicine Research, where my doctoral dissertation was published in the 4 journal articles plus the case studies, where we saw gains of 23 points in working memory. IQ scores continued to go up 14 points. And here is my doctoral dissertation. And it's right here. So you can just look here and see that as well. And those very last pages are just right there. I encourage you to read the whole thing. A lot of people think it's interesting. I had a lot of fun writing it and really understanding everything and how this can impact everybody in the further research. And people are building from my research and doing more research, which is just super exciting and flattering. And then here's this one on visual processing as well, an early predictor of inferential language and phonemic awareness ability. And the gal who wrote this, Leanna Roulette, was Rose's tutor. And she used to come and watch me work with Rose. And when she did her master's in speech and language therapy, she used SET. And so it's super amazing to look at hers, and you'll see her research and then how she did SET, okay, which is amazing. So all this is back here. I really want to encourage you to read the article on a biblical view of human development instead of a naturalistic view, computer training, or human mediator, and you can guess that human mediator won out. The correlation between working memory, intelligence, and cognitive functions. And then the case studies as well with students with autism and post-concussion syndrome, fetal alcohol syndrome, and processing disorders. So y'all, this has been so much fun. To do this 8-week course, I encourage you to share this with friends and colleagues. This is my gift because there are just too many children and adults who are struggling. Our funds for special education here in the United States, we see, just more cuts. We have parents homeschooling, charter schools, public, private, trying to find the best resources for their children, or people who will not qualify for anything, but they are really struggling to remember what they're reading, or to listen to a lecture and take notes, or to hold a job because they're not able to hold on to everything. So, it's just kind of endless. And this is kind of our labor of love. You got to meet Clayton. I love that. Was God not just so sweet that he was here tonight on the very last night? And as we close, the very last thing I want to do tonight is read his poem. I really want to close with this tonight. And I got this at 12:30 in the morning, and it was, "Take my hand and run with me. When people look at me, a great student they see, spoken well of by the faculty, who constantly excels academically, who will go into vocational ministry. This path has been far from easy. For me, nothing ever came naturally. Since a child, I worked more rigorously than all my fellow classmates, always falling behind in my classes. No matter how much effort, it never looked well on my report. Despite my failures, I pressed forward. Discouragement was constant, yet I endured. The hope and love my parents showed, and the Lord's hand of providence, brought me from shame and disgrace to a place filled with faith and grace. Fellow student, have hope and rejoice, for you also can be set free from all these struggles and miseries. For 19 years it haunted me, but now I can run with ease. See and learn from me, oh please. I wish to see you at peace, so take my hand during this race. We will run a steady pace, confident with hope and success until we unlock your gifts." And that's actually the first poem I had ever read that he had written. I didn't know he had been writing poetry, but he was reflecting. It was his last night on campus, and he was reflecting his journey. He ended up getting his bachelor's in biblical counseling at Boyce College, and wanted to just end with that. And it is because, please know, it's because we are created in God's image that everyone has purpose and worth, and the mind can change, and we have that hope. So thank you for watching. Look at the website, send me questions. You can look at our Roses program, working with us online, finding more information, doing an evaluation. There's so much, but we are here to come alongside of you on this journey. So thank you.